Tonight, we're just 24 hours away from America's newest first family moving into the White House.
Your father infamously said he was going to become so presidential, he would be boring. When is that going to happen exactly?
They touched down in D.C. just hours ago, and tonight are talking only to 2020, the next president, from the people who know him best, his family. Exclusive all-new interviews about their innermost workings.
You can do it! You can do it!
Who's got his ear?
Does it trouble you that there are a lot of people who are fearful of your dad's presidency?
Ivanka.
People are saying that you're essentially going to be the first lady.
Eric and Don Jr.
Your father is entrusting the Trump company to you and your brother to run. You can run it completely without him.
We could.
What do they say about their father's infamous late-night tweets?
Do you ever say to him, knock it off?
Sure. I'm his daughter.
And Melania Trump.
We had the great sparkle.
A first lady like no other. Now Barron, the youngest first boy since John. And the backstage secrets of moving one family out and a new one in with only a 5-hour turnaround.
I sent out a questionnaire. What brand of shampoo? What brand of soap? Foam pillows, feather pillows, roll up old carpets.
Tonight, a new chapter, celebrations and concerns.
I mean, he rewrote the rules.
And he's still rewriting them.
America's new first family. The Trumps go to Washington. Now, live from Washington, D.C., David Muir and Elizabeth Vargas.
And good evening. We're coming to you live tonight from Washington, where we are just hours away now from the inauguration. Tomorrow, President-elect Donald Trump becomes President Trump, taking the oath of office shortly before noon, becoming the 45th President of the United States. It'll happen right behind us, right here at the Capitol, where he will then deliver the most important speech of his life.
But even today has been full of tradition for the decidedly untraditional president-elect, his last full day as a civilian. He's been at a black tie candlelight dinner down the street from us at Washington's historic Union Station, where he worked the crowd, joking about the weather forecast for tomorrow and his hair.
I mean, the truth is, if it really pours, that's okay, because people will realize it's my real hair, and that's okay. It's okay.
He even surprised his counselor Kellyanne Conway by calling her up on stage to thank her for her tenacity as his campaign manager.
And Elizabeth, as you know, before that, a concert at the majestic Lincoln Memorial, which included singer Lee Greenwood performing his signature patriotic anthem.
Well, I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free.
And of course, by his side tonight, as we come on the air, the people who know him best, his family. And tonight, right here on 2020, they sit down with us, revealing details we've never heard before about the father they acknowledge doesn't quite know how he'll feel when he takes that oath.
That's right, and we start with Ivanka Trump, the president-elect's favorite child, according to her brothers, the peacekeeper to his sometimes quick temper, keeping on message when the president-elect goes off. She opened up to Deborah Roberts this week in this exclusive interview.
You could say that Ivanka Trump's life has prepared her to become a first daughter. Born between brothers Don Jr. and Eric during her father's first marriage to Ivana, hers was a gold-plated girlhood, more diamonds than denim. With enough beauty to work as a model and the brains to earn an economics degree from Wharton. She's clearly the apple of her father's eye.
Who is his favorite?
I'm going with Ivanka. I'm going with Ivanka.
This week, 35-year-old Ivanka is in a whirlwind. Days before inauguration, she invited 2020 to her offices in Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue, now an armed fortress.
Welcome.
Thank you. So this is brand new.
Brand new. We've had other office spaces, but we just moved into this one.
And it's likely to be one of her last visits for a while. In true Trump fashion, Ivanka is firing herself, stepping away from the Trump Organization and her own apparel and accessories business. Happy birthday! She and husband Jared Kushner, along with their 3 young children, are moving into a $5.5 million home in one of Washington's most exclusive neighborhoods, just around the corner from the Obama's new digs.
What are you saying to them about this new venture, and what are you saying about Grandpa's new job?
I tell them that their grandfather is going to Washington, D.C. with the goal of helping as many people as he possibly can, and their father, and I want to contribute to that in any way that we are able.
But in the meantime, boxes around the house, the moving van about to back up.
And that. We have boxes coming out of our ears, so we've got them piled up to the ceilings.
Grab an apple! Ivanka's known to share private family moments on social media, the nurturing side of Washington's newest power couple.
Apples we just picked from the orchard.
Her Instagram filled with home videos and family photos.
You can do it! You can do it!
Ivanka Trump and her family accosted and harassed on a JetBlue flight by...
But there's a downside to their new public life. She and her children were harassed recently by a fellow passenger on a commercial flight.
Some guy went up to her and started giving her a hard time and told her that her father was ruining the country.
Was that frightening? What was that like for you? And a lot of people were asking, what was she doing on a commercial flight anyway?
Well, I think it's never okay to harass anyone, regardless of what your viewpoints are, especially when you're with children. But, I think that this is a new world, and I'm adjusting.
Ivanka.
She says that low point is overshadowed by the high moments, which began at Trump Tower in June 2015.
Today, I have the honor of introducing a man who needs no introduction.
Ivanka became a tireless booster for her billionaire dad.
Ivanka joined her father overnight
on the campaign trail.
A regular on the campaign trail.
Our next president and my father.
That tight dad-daughter bond, coupled with news that Trump's wife Melania and son Barron won't move to the White House right away.
The future First Lady Melania and her son Barron, we've learned, are expected to stay in New York at least through next spring.
Has fueled speculation about Ivanka's role.
People are saying that you're essentially going to be the First Lady.
There's one First Lady, and Melania will be an unbelievable First Lady. I'm incredibly proud of her. She is intelligent, warm, caring. She's a remarkable person.
Will you have an office in the East Wing? Do you have a sense of what you think you want to carve out as a role?
Today, my focus is really just moving to Washington, traveling around the country, and listening and getting great feedback on how I can add positive value.
She says she's still figuring out her role, but it's clear Jarrett, her husband of 7 years, will be a key player. Like his wife, Jarrett knows a life of privilege. A Harvard grad, he too comes from a family who made a fortune in real estate, even more than the Trumps. The Kushners are an Orthodox Jewish family. Ivanka converted. Unlike her, she says her husband shies away from the spotlight.
A lot of people don't know your husband. Give us a sense of who he is. I mean, he's the kind of the mystery guy in the background.
He's a remarkable human being. He's kind and thoughtful. I feel in a lot of ways. We got married pretty young by, I guess, New York standards, and I feel like we've really grown up together, and now we have 3 children. And he's an unbelievable father.
Does he change diapers?
He does. Yes.
He does.
There will likely be fewer Pampers in his future. Kushner, named a senior White House advisor, is about to become one of the most powerful men in the West Wing. When meeting Ivanka, there's no denying her diplomatic skills. Despite the ice-cold tension between her dad and Hillary Clinton, when they wouldn't even shake hands during the second debate, Ivanka and Chelsea Clinton found a warmer moment.
She's a very good friend of mine. She's been a friend of mine long before the campaign, through the campaign.
And you're still friends?
Of course. Will be a friend of mine after. So I haven't spoken about the specific challenges about this next chapter with her just yet, but I intend to.
Details matter to Ivanka Trump. She's even writing a new book called Women Who Work as a guide to help women achieve success. Book proceeds will go to charity. Critics would quickly point out the irony.
You know there's going to be a march with a lot of women who feel that your dad is going to set women back, going to turn back the clock. What do you say to those women who are fearful?
I say give my father a chance. I think that what he's shown his entire life is his support and advocacy of women.
Her father also ignites controversy with his shoot-from-the-lip tweeting.
Your dad has become known for his relentless tweets. Do you ever say to him, knock it off, let it go?
Sure.
You do?
Sure.
And does he listen?
I'm his daughter, so I give him my feedback, solicited or otherwise. You know, it's It's a unique moment because he has so many people that are engaged with him who he can bring his message to directly. It's very powerful, but of course at times I tell him not to. So
does he listen to you? Does anybody say,
depends
don't
on the
send
day.
that? Just depends on the day. We're in a divided nation right now. Does it trouble you that there are a lot of people who are fearful of your dad's presidency?
Yeah. The country is very divided, and it has been very divided. And I have seen my whole life, my father is an incredible unifier. So for every critic, I would say, give him time, let him come into office, let him prove you wrong.
Your dad's speech will probably be more important than anyone he's ever given. Have you weighed in on his inauguration speech? Do you have a sense of what he's going to say?
He's been working on it extensively. It's excellent, and he's still refining it. Just like his speech on election night, it will focus on unity, on optimism, and on the future.
Short, sweet, long, do you know?
It's not overly long, and it's not too short.
Ivanka Trump's life is about to change dramatically, but she says not completely.
Friday after he's sworn in, is he Dad? Is he Mr. President?
What are you going to call him? He's always Dad. He's always Dad.
And while you heard Deborah ask there, the first daughter hasn't said if she'll have an office in the White House or any kind of official role, but you know she's going to be a trusted confidant for her father.
As she said, he's always Dad.
Always Dad.
We want to hear your thoughts on tonight's program, so join us on Facebook and Twitter. Use the hashtag ABC2020. And we'll be right back with the first sons.
Next, the Trump sons. What will now be off limits with their father?
You're never going to discuss business with your father?
And do they think he's hit his own off limits on Twitter?
Should he be calling people liar, loser, sleazebag?
Sometimes he's right.
When we return.
Welcome back to this special edition of 2020 on the eve of the inauguration. And a moment here in Washington this evening after the Lincoln Memorial Concert as the entire Trump family approached that magnificent monument. One of the most iconic landmarks here in D.C., Donald Trump standing before Lincoln as Mr. Trump is now about to become leader of the free world.
But President-elect Trump's sons have other shoes to fill, their fathers. While Donald Trump remains in Washington, D.C., his adult sons, Don Jr. and Eric, will return home to New York and take over the reins of their father's billion-dollar businesses. For the young men who told me they had never even been in the White House, the Trump Tower is the only address that matters, at least for the next 4 years. Pause for a moment and consider, what must it be like for Donald Trump to call you son? Eric and Donald Jr., the original apprentices, know the answer.
And by the way, I think on that criteria, Eric and I probably agree with you.
He was always kind of a father and a mentor and a boss.
I sat down with Eric and his wife Laura and Don Jr. earlier this week to talk about growing up Trump.
We'd run in to give him a kiss before we went to school in the morning, and he'd look at us as 5 years old, 6 years old. He'd always look at us, no drinking, no drugs, no smoking. And by the way,
at 5?
And by the way, you guys better get good grades. Exactly. At 5, I go, Dad, what's drinking, what's drugs, what's smoking?
So it's my room. It's kind of like going back in time.
Frozen in time. Showing off their childhood bedrooms, the two princes of the Trump empire told Barbara Walters in 2004 that they grew up with priceless Manhattan views.
The cabs, they always look like micro machines. They're just so small from up here.
It's just a blast of nostalgia.
But it wasn't always limos and bespoke suits. The two boys learned to fish and hunt while summering with Mother Ivana's frugal working-class parents in Czechoslovakia. And Don Jr. went through a rebellious phase, first as a hard-partying college kid, and then as an Aspen ski bum who sometimes hid his famous last name.
There were times where it was just, you didn't want to have to deal with everyone making those assumptions, however ignorant they may be, that I'd always say, introduce myself as just Don, or something like that, avoid the last name at all costs.
But in 2001, Don Jr. anteed back in, starting at his dad's Atlantic City casino working outside as a dock attendant. Then along came brother Eric. They labored in construction for the Trump Organization, cutting trees, riding tractors, making their way up alongside sister Ivanka.
With the four of us, I think we just have a great opportunity to just take over the city and really...
To take over the city?
To take over the city and
Stop
really...
thinking so small, Eric. Think the world.
Okay, so maybe ambition is genetic. Now the sons are top Trump Organization executives, and their hard-driving father has attained the most ambitious goal of all. Do you call him Mr. President? I mean, seriously, he's now the president. He's not just your father.
You know, I've certainly walked into his office and I said, you know, Mr. President-elect, and, you know, he smiles.
The brothers have new titles, too. The Secret Service has dubbed Don Jr., the older, more outgoing brother, Mountaineer. Eric, known more for his silent strength, is codenamed Marksman. But despite the new security arrangements, they'll be staying behind in New York with part of the family. Especially with Melania and your little brother Barron staying here in New York City. Will your dad actually move into the White House? How much time will he spend there?
Oh, he'll be there. I mean, you know, I think...
But what, 50-50?
No,
I mean...
I'd say virtually all of his time will be there. You know, certainly all of his working time will be there. You know, he doesn't do anything halfway.
Was any part of you jealous of your sister that she gets to go to D.C. and play more of a role in the policy?
Listen, there is an element of it. I mean, I think anyone would want to probably be able to do that. And, but I'm very content with the decision that we've made to be able to stay here and do this.
Keeping 39-year-old Don Jr. company here are his wife Vanessa and their 5 children and brother Eric, 33, married to wife Laura for just over 2 years. The couple never imagined their first years of marriage would be spent largely on a campaign trail.
Certainly was not in the plan, but you know, you can't really plan for things like this. And you know, come election night, which was our 2-year anniversary, it was an incredible way to spend it with our whole family.
Just last week, the boys were by their father's side again as the president-elect announced his plan to end conflict of interest criticism by turning his massive business holdings over to them. And as always, expectations will be high.
If they do a bad job, I'll say, you're fired.
No pressure.
No pressure, right? What could go wrong?
What can go wrong? Seriously, though, how is this going to work? You're never going to speak to your dad about business. You've been intimately involved with him in business for years.
We have, but you know, we've also learned from under him. I've been there 16 years now. I mean, we understand how this business works.
You're in his office, each other's office, 7 times a day. How are you all of a sudden going to pull the plug on that?
My father has the biggest responsibility of any person, arguably, on the planet. His focus is going to be running this country, and my focus is going to be, you know, running a great company.
And you'll never discuss this, like over a family dinner, nothing? Like, do you say, Dad, you can't even ask me how it's going?
Yeah, listen, I think it's important to keep separation of church and state.
There's been a huge outcry among some ethics experts that it will not remove the suspicion that your father is profiting from the office of the presidency, that he needs to fully divest the company.
Well, it's interesting that you use the word suspicion, because that's all it is. We've taken extraordinary measures to make sure that the two are separate and distinct.
Why not just divest and silence the critics once and for all?
When you think about a multi-billion-dollar company, it would take years to do it, right? Half the buyers, if you're going to try to maximize value, which obviously makes sense, would be from other countries. Then there'd beg the question of, well, is that person paying a premium to later curry favor with you? There's no win on this.
One of the other things your father infamously said on the campaign trail was that he was going to become so presidential, he would be boring. When is that going to happen exactly?
I don't know. You have to ask him that question. But you know what's amazing? I mean, he rewrote the rules of politics in this country and around the world.
And he's still rewriting them, often on Twitter. But along with rewriting the rules, many have said he has also frequently crossed the line. When you're tweeting out things like liar, loser, sleazebag, is that the way a president of the United States should be talking?
Sometimes he's right. No,
that doesn't mean he should say it.
I see how bad the media can be. I see how deceptive they can be. And if he can get his message directly to the source by cutting out the middleman, I think that's a great thing.
Words matter. And we've had the director of the CIA warn your dad that his words were dangerous just a few days ago, especially when he equates U.S. intelligence to Nazi Germany. Do you think your dad will pull back on the Twitter?
I think he'll pull back on some of it, but again, I think if stuff and misinformation is put out there, he's going to call them out, as he should.
But does he understand that nations are hanging on every syllable?
He does understand that, and they're going to have to get used to it as well.
Probably not politically correct, but I don't care.
So tell me what it is that people out there, especially millions of people who might not like your dad. What don't they know about your dad and father-in-law?
Well, first of all, he's got a heart of gold. He was the greatest father in the world to Don, Ivanka, and I.
Are you gonna fight?
To all those people out there, even the ones that are out protesting in the streets, the ones that will be protesting on Inauguration Day, I think once they see that he really cares about this country, when they have a little more money in their pockets, when they feel like their children have a better outlook on life, they have a little better education, and they have real hope for the future, I think those people may not tell anyone, but they're going to vote for him for a second term.
Next, Melania Trump, the woman beside the man, in her own words.
I don't think he's nasty, I think he's tough.
The First Lady with so many firsts.
This is the first time we've ever had a First Lady not move to the White House. The first third wife of a president.
When we return.
We're coming back to you with this beautiful live shot of the U.S. Capitol, where thousands will gather tomorrow to watch Donald J. Trump be sworn in on two Bibles, the one that Abraham Lincoln used, as well as the Bible that Donald Trump's mother gave him in 1955 for Sunday school.
And Melania, of course, will be standing right by her husband's side when he's sworn in. But the big question for any First Lady entering the White House for the first time, what kind of influence will she have? Once again, here's Deborah Roberts.
When it comes to First Ladies, this unconventional 46-year-old former model is a wellspring of firsts.
Melania Trump is non-traditional in so many ways. The first third wife of a president. The first Lady we've had who's born outside the U.S. since Louisa Adams. The first where English isn't her first language. She is the First Lady with a prenup.
Hello. What we have.
Much of America got to know Melania Trump when she sat down with Barbara Walters.
Were you involved in the decision of your husband to become president?
Yes, and I encourage him.
You did? You encouraged him?
Because I know what he will do and what he can do for America. He's a master negotiator, master deal maker, and he loves the country.
For this unusual First Lady, before the magazine covers, the marriage to the Donald and the billionaire jet-set lifestyle, Melania Trump was Melania Novs. Born in Sevnica in Slovenia, a small riverside town that was once part of communist Yugoslavia, Melania grew up in this humble apartment. Her father, a car salesman, her mother, a clothing designer. Melania did her first catwalk at the age of 5, and at 17 began modeling professionally. Childhood friends say the small-town girl always stood out.
2 words, Grace Kelly.
She was like an angel.
She was never typical Slovenian girl, very classy.
After studying architecture at a university in Slovenia, she left school to pursue modeling in New York. Melania spoke about the mercurial life of a model on the campaign trail.
There are ups and downs, high highs, and ridicule and rejection too.
At a fashion party in 1998, the 28-year-old model ran into the then 52-year-old real estate tycoon.
He came up to you, you rebuffed him.
He came with a date. So he asked me for the number, and I said, I will not give you my number. If you give me your number, I will call you. We met a week later.
And then it was okay?
Yes, he was very charming, and we had a great sparkle.
Soon after, Melania added sparkle to the cover of GQ, posing nude. Another First Lady first.
Your image, looking the way you do, is that a liability for your husband?
I don't think so. I think people will always judge. I was a very successful model, and I did some photo shoots. Yes, they were a little risky, but nothing more than you see every year in Sport Illustrated.
And this is everything my design.
But not just a pretty face. Melania revealed her entrepreneurial side, launching a skincare and jewelry line.
It's really fun and creative for me, and it's something else than being a mommy and a wife. So
all along, the would-be new First Lady has remained steadfast in support of her lightning rod husband.
You know your husband has come under fire here and there for making disparaging remarks about women. Does this bother you?
It doesn't bother me. He treats everybody the same. He talked about men as well, not about the women only.
Do you think occasionally he's too nasty?
I don't think he's nasty. I think he's tough, and you need that. You need that in business world. You need that as a president. You need that to be successful.
Thank you very much.
Melania's not without her own controversy, accused of plagiarizing Michelle Obama's speech during the Republican National Convention.
You work hard for what you want in life. That your word is your bond and you do what you say you're going to do.
Becoming fodder for late-night jokes.
She gave the speech of Michelle Obama's life last night.
Even her husband couldn't resist.
Michelle Obama gives a speech, and everyone loves it. My wife, Melania, gives the exact same speech, and people get on her case.
However, Melania recently vowed to make a cause her very own, cyberbullying.
It's very bad out there, and children get hurt
by
social media, by what's going on, and by negativity.
It's a real problem in schools.
Douglas Brinkley is a presidential historian and author of the book Rightful Heritage.
She wants to pick up the issue of cyberbullying, which caused some laughter by some people because Donald Trump seems to do that himself quite a bit, but nevertheless, her point's well taken.
But when the new president unpacks his toothbrush and bathrobe in their new home, Melania won't be joining him, adding to her list of firsts, says Kate Anderson Brower, author of First Women.
This is the first time we've ever had a first lady not move to the White House since, Martha Washington, when there was no White House.
Instead, Mrs. Trump will remain at the couple's New York luxury penthouse, at least until 10-year-old son Barron finishes the school year.
I'd give a lot of credit to Melania to preserve that level of privacy for herself and her son with somebody as such a high profile as Donald Trump.
And once she does move to Washington, the question will be just how much this unconventional First Lady of firsts will change the White House and how much it will change her.
Next, Barron goes to Daddy's office, but will he go to the White House?
Last time we had a young boy in the White House, and you had John Kennedy Jr.
Growing up in a playground like none other, complete with Secret Service code names. Guess who had turquoise and twinkle? When we return.
You're now looking at a live picture of the White House, 132 rooms. It's been turned into a home for some 26 children since Lincoln. Presidents and first ladies raising their children in the people's house. This country really has watched so many faces grow up in the White House.
Yes, they have, but much has been made of the one first child who won't be living there, at least for a little while, Barron Trump. He probably has all he needs or could ever want at home in New York, but there's much more than even Trump Tower can offer him, waiting for him at the most famous house in the world.
I brought my family, okay? And Barron Trump, Barron?
When the Trumps move into the White House, 10-year-old Barron will be joining what the Bush twins called a rarefied club in a letter they wrote just last week to Sasha and Malia Obama.
Now you're about to join another rarefied club.
Children who have called the White House home.
Last time we had a young boy in the White House, John Kennedy Jr., and the Kennedy children were a big part of Camelot.
And although plans are for Barron to finish the school year in New York City, when he does arrive in Washington, he and the Trump grandchildren will enjoy the many perks at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. A movie theater, bowling alley, swimming pool, basketball court, and Barron might even enjoy the putting green installed by President Eisenhower. The staff of the White House goes the extra mile to make sure the first children feel at home, as they did for Sasha and Malia Obama.
First night that they were in the house, and the staff had a scavenger hunt planned for the Obama girls, and you wanted to make that special. After the end of the scavenger hunt, we opened the doors, and there were the Jonas Brothers.
Former Chief Usher Stephen Rochon fondly remembers watching Sasha and Malia grow up at the White House.
I had the pleasure of picking out the swing set. We hadn't had a swing set on the South Lawn since John Kennedy.
The 18 acres of the White House grounds make a spacious backyard. It's where 9-year-old Amy Carter played in a treehouse built for her during President Jimmy Carter's administration. Like Barron Trump, Amy was an only child in the White House. So was Chelsea Clinton. Steve Ford, son of President Gerald Ford, wrote a letter to Chelsea when her father Bill Clinton was elected president.
And I thought, gosh, what a tough situation she will have, because she had no siblings. She had no peer group her age. I wrote a letter and said, you know, make your Secret Service guys your best friends.
Steve was 18 when President Richard Nixon resigned.
I, Gerald R. Ford.
Steve's father became the 38th president of the United States.
Dad gets sworn in as president. We don't get to move in the White House. We have to go back to our little house in suburbia. That night, we're having a family dinner. Mom's cooking the family dinner, and she goes, Jerry, something's wrong here. You just became president of the United States, and I'm still cooking.
They had to wait a week until the Nixons moved out. Steve still remembers his first night in the White House.
I called my best friend, you gotta come over here. This place is incredible, right? And there's a solarium up on the roof of the White House. We set my stereo up, and I think we were playing Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven. And it was like Dumb and Dumber on the roof of the White House.
And she's buying the stairway to heaven.
The Trumps, like other first families, will face the challenge of making the 132-room mansion feel like a family home. And security being a priority, sometimes it's easier to bring the party to you.
So I think it should be a pretty room.
Jackie Kennedy converted the solarium on the 3rd floor into a kindergarten for daughter Caroline. Later, that same space would become a family room where Malia and Sasha had sleepovers.
It was like you would find in any house in suburban America. So it was as normal as it could be, although they had a view of, you know, the Washington Monument out of their window.
It could be the same view Barron sees from his new bedroom, potentially one formerly occupied by Caroline and John Kennedy on the 2nd floor. The older Trump children might sleep in the 3rd floor bedrooms where Ron Reagan Jr. stayed. Another unique aspect of being the first son or daughter is your own Secret Service detail. Here is Steve Ford's in Montana, his agents decked out in cowboy gear. You also get a code name.
My code name was Peso.
His sister Susan Ford was Panda. The Bush twins were Turquoise and Twinkle. Sasha was Rosebud. Malia, Radiance.
If you're Barron, you know, you're wherever you go, you have Secret Service around you.
How do you normalize that?
Very hard, and that's why I think it takes parenting. So I think Melania is the one who has to do that on a full-time way and make sure that her son comes out well adjusted, and by all indications, she's doing her best to do that.
Melania has been unbelievable in terms of how she's been adjusting him to the changes that will be occurring in his own life. But he's very excited.
And what will life be like for Barron in the White House and beyond?
I think any of the children of a former president feel very blessed. You know, we didn't do anything. We were along for the rides. I look back on my life and just, you know, thank God that this is the life I got.
When we return, the former family out, the new one in all of 5 hours.
So the minute the door shuts after the Obamas leave, frenzy.
Changing everything from the chef to the sheets. But will the Trumps bring on the bling?
The White House is the White House.
Next.
When the Obamas leave at about 10:30 in the morning, the action begins.
So the minute the door shuts after the Obamas leave, frenzy.
It's over.
They start racing around.
They do. It all switches out.
What do you mean? All the clothes? Do all the mattresses come out? I mean, you can't have President Trump sleeping in the same bed President Obama
no, things
just
get
slept
moved
in.
out. It's almost, you know, I only can use the word SWAT team because that's what it feels like, and it's done quickly and efficiently.
I had it laid out to the 5-minute detail. And what happened every 5 minutes.
Admiral Stephen Rochon was in charge of the move the last time it happened, 8 years ago, when President George W. Bush's family moved out and newly elected President Barack Obama moved in.
It is very intense to execute both of those moves. Most of the time, you don't find the new family coming in within 5 hours.
The staff can attend to the smallest detail. Rochon says that's because they've done their homework.
I sent out a questionnaire to the advance team right after the election, and it's a huge list. What brand of shampoo? What brand of soap? What type of carpets? Bedding? You want foam pillows or feather pillows? Mattresses? All of those things are laid out to the finest detail of knowing what they want.
For security reasons, no outside movers are allowed, so the entire staff must pitch in.
All 95 staff members, no leave is granted, no liberty. They usually come to work at about 4 in the morning. You may not leave till well after midnight, after the inaugural parties, after the balls.
Moving trucks for both families occupy the sweeping driveway.
You have one truck on the south lawn facing south, and the other truck on the south lawn facing north, ready to move in. The house still belongs to the sitting president until they step into that limousine.
As soon as the limo pulls away, the move begins. And it's no small task. The White House is a 3-story, 132-room mansion. While the ground floor is open to the public, the first family occupies the second and third floors, with 16 bedrooms, 35 bathrooms, family rooms, and a private kitchen. It's about 20,000 square feet of living space, which means the Trumps will be downsizing from their 30,000 square foot penthouse in New York City.
For many, the White House is a step up. I am looking around this room. The White House might be a step down.
The White House is the White House. It's just a spectacular place. And, you know, it's something that represents something very special.
The new first family is free to decorate the top 2 private floors however they like, but the first floor rooms are too historically significant to change.
So the idea that Donald Trump is going to come in and bling out the White House, that's not really possible.
And it's not just decor. There's also the question of cuisine.
You might want to change things around.
The Obamas famously had a very healthy chef.
Donald Trump might be doing fast food. Burger. I mean, it's fun. So, yeah, there's no question the White House is the imprint of whoever the president of the moment is.
The Obamas put their own imprint on the White House, and although the president's private residence is typically off limits, the public recently got a glimpse behind the scenes when the Obamas opened their home to Architectural Digest.
There's a real fascination with how would people with so much stature and power live in their private time. You can see personal touches of each administration and how they want to live.
But few improvements are as famous as Jackie Kennedy's.
That's the oldest thing in the White House.
When she renovated the White House during JFK's presidency. Here she is giving a tour that was broadcast in 1962. With all the precision and the preparations, ultimately, Rochon says moving day can be emotional. Greeting Barack Obama held special significance for Rochon.
Being the first African-American chief usher, here I am having the opportunity to say welcome home, Mr. President, to the first African-American president.
And he still remembers the feeling of saying goodbye to George and Laura Bush.
And I remember Inauguration Day in the morning to say farewell in the East Room, and there wasn't a dry eye in the room, including the Bushes. You really get attached. They get attached to you. It does become family.
And there will no doubt be plenty more tears from the staff tomorrow when the Obamas move out.
It's always such a difficult moment when a first family says goodbye to the staff that's really become their own family, too. Yeah, when we come back here tonight, what you can expect to see tomorrow: pomp and circumstance, high fashion balls, and the changing of the guard. A president and a president-elect sharing that ride at the Capitol. It's always so intriguing. Elizabeth and I will be right back as we show you the fireworks over the Lincoln Memorial this evening.